My name is Paul Curcio. I've heard a lot of stories over the years. My grandfather came from southern Italy and my grandmother to work on the B&S Railroad. And so, of course, over the years through my dad, I've heard lots of stories about all this area and all the things that went on here. And of course, then I've got 4 books that the Nangles did a research on all the Belfast and everything and all the things that happened from the beginning, you know, when they started to record these things up until the present time. And of course, the railroads coming through here, we had 4 railroads and we had the canal. And so one guy that worked on the Erie, he was from Salamanca. He was a Seneca Indian, and he, you know, when I knew him, I used to go over and help him shovel the sidewalk. He was pretty near 100 years old then. This was in 1957.
He lived right around here?
Yeah, he lived behind my dad down here. He lived on Sherman Street. My dad lived on West Hughes. And of course, he couldn't do a lot of things he did. And he told me stories about the railroad, and he said there was every nationality who were working on the railroad except Chinese. And I don't know, I'll probably go back and forth because I've got canal stories, railroad stories.
And I know you got ghost stories too.
Yeah, ghost stories that have happened in this house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us about a few of them?
Huh?
Tell us about a few of them.
Okay, now, a friend of my daughter's, I don't know if I should name names and what.
You can if you want, sure.
Whether they'd be.
Okay, anything you want.
Jackie O'Grady was a friend of my daughter, Tanya Curcio, and she used to come quite frequently and stay overnight. And one night, their bedroom's upstairs, and she said she was following Tanya down these stairs into the cellar, and she was right ahead of her, and she got into the laundry room, and Tanya wasn't there. It was a ghost, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Tanya because she wasn't there. So, and then another really strange thing was, the strangest thing I ever saw was, Ceci called me upstairs. Ceci is my wife, and she said there's something in a bag under the dresser there, because it's in a Bonton's plastic bag, and it was violently going crazy. And so I didn't want to get bitten by whatever it was, so I cautiously reached under there and grabbed the bag and pulled it out and carefully carried it downstairs, opened the back sliding door and tipped it up and dumped it out, and there was nothing in it.
It was doing that all the way down, all the time you were carrying it?
Yeah, I was afraid it was going to get out and bite me.
Oh, it was moving and everything.
Oh, just violently. It was just, and I never saw anything like that in my life.
Wow.
And Ceci witnessed it. It's not just me.
Yeah.
Because she's the one that called me up there to
Wow.
Did you tell me, Paul, at one time when you were digging out in your garden, you found some bones or something too?
We were digging the garage.
Yeah.
And of course, my grandmother, Curcio, that was, she was quite superstitious. And I know when I was building this house, she'd come up there, and if it got towards dark, she was just panicky. She just, would grab my dad and say that she had to get home. She couldn't be up here. And Dad would say, well, Mom, just calm down. What's the matter? And she said, there's ghosts up here. She said, there's a black man buried up here, and I'm scared of his ghost. And so, Dad would say, well, just wait a minute. No, she wouldn't stop. She would just panic by it. And she, yeah. So he'd have to take her home. And another thing was in the family, her brother used to come and visit here, John Procopio. And he used to visit my grandmother. Well, she got so that she wouldn't didn't want him to come because she said that she'd end up taking care of him. You know, they're old, and she didn't want to do it, so she would say no, you know, she didn't want him to come. So he died, and of course, through her guilty conscience, I guess, she thought that he was coming back and haunting her. So they actually got the priest and had an exorcist, you know.
Really?
Yeah, because she was so bothered by his ghost. Yeah, you know.
Now, was there another story that you mentioned to somebody had maybe dragged themselves downtown?
Oh yeah, that happened right here in this house.
Yeah.
Right here in
Now,
this.
yeah, let's take a look at this. Now, Paul, when we drove up to your house here, and I've been here many times, there's nothing around here. It's all empty.
Yeah.
But this picture you just brought out to show us and tell us about the picture. This has got, now your house we're sitting in right now is
Let's see.
would have been right here.
Let me turn around.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's this one
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here.
I'll come right around behind you.
This one right here.
Where's that, Paul? Which one?
This one here.
Right there. That's been knocked down, but that is now what your house is here.
Yeah.
And all these over here are just no longer there.
Well, yeah, they are. Now there's Mark Bultag's house,
Okay. All right.
and here's McKelvey's house, and all the way down the line, all these houses on Hughes Street. But the B&S Railroad grade was just built then, and the railroad was new, and this is a bridge over here that went over the Pensy Railroad.
Now, what did they call this area up here?
Well, the old timers called from Laurel Street up here Honky Town,
Yeah.
because they used to always joke with us kids and say, "Who's the mayor of Honky Town?" You know, and then they'd laugh, and we'd like, "What are you talking about? You crazy?" You know, we don't know anything about that, and they thought that was the biggest joke.
So your house now sits there. So why then? Where would the haunting or the mystery come in?
Well, back. That's my dad told me, and I was later found it in the
And your
paper.
dad was a historian, and you were the town historian too, both, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he said that probably wherever the kitchen was, there was 2 Russians and a Polish guy playing cards, and they bought some, I don't know, some kind of alcohol. I don't know, this whiskey or whatever, and they were drinking, and after they were pretty well finished with whatever they brought to drink, the 2 Russian guys were telling the Polish guy, you know, come on, you didn't pay for any of this. And he said, why should I pay for it? I didn't drink any. And they insisted that he ought to pay his share. Well, I guess it got pretty violent, and one of them supposedly, did stab him with a table knife. And supposedly, he crawled from here to about 3/4 of a mile, walked and crawled all the way and died on the priest's doorstep.
Oh my.
So
Because we're wondering if that's the guy, that's the spirit who's haunting the Hall of Fame down there. Now, Paul, all these buildings here, they were because Italians were brought in to build the railroad, or didn't you say that there was there's like a small community up here for building the railroad?
yeah, the B&S, there was a bunch of shacks down over there. You can't believe that anybody would live in that area where it is now.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, there's no pictures of it.
Right.
You know, but my dad remembers it because he was born in, I think, 1911. And so, you know, and all the stories of his dad, you know, working on the railroad first, the B&S, and then he went on the Pensy. And there was 13 of them in the family.
Oh, wow.
And all the struggles they had to survive. You know, they had to, you know, and one of his jobs was, they were always worried about washouts on the Pensy, you know, the streams. There's one place on the Greenway that washed out after they put a bridge, and that was one of the places on the Pensy they were always worried about it washing out. So if ever there was a heavy rainstorm, he had to go out with his lantern in the lightning and thunderstorm and walk all the way down from Sherman Street all the way down the railroad. I don't know if he went all the way to Rockville or I imagine he had to go a long ways to check on all the tracks. And if you ever used a kerosene lantern, you know that isn't much of a light. To be walking around in a lightning and thunderstorm and rainstorm and checking it out. If he did find any washout, they had what they called torpedoes. They put on the railroad tracks to warn the engineers. They had lead ribbons and they wrapped around the tracks and the rail, and when the train ran over, it exploded, and so many meant something. I don't know what how many they put down for what warning meant what, but that was their system of warning the train that was coming, that there was danger, or that you should stop, or So that's what he did. Along with, he was foreman on the railroad too, and over the years he had, a lot of those guys were very, very violent. One guy threatened to kill him. Of course, maybe there was many, but the one that Dad used to tell about was that this guy said he was going to kill him, and so he went to the justice of the peace. Imagine the justice of the peace having that much power to tell him, if the guy steps on your land or comes to your job where you're working, shoot him. Get a pistol and shoot the guy. And so he did. He carried a pistol, but he never had an encounter with a guy.
Now, Paul, this is Sherman Street right through here.
This is Murray Hill.
Murray Hill here, and it goes down to Hughes.
Down to Hughes.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's about 12 minutes. So what I want to do is I want to go the very next step on the next video. I want to stop at what you know better than anybody does in Belfast, and that's where John L. Sullivan frequented down at the what Joe just picked up.
The canal?
The canal house. Okay, so
no, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
No.
Okay, but he's working on it.
He went to the Belfast, the new Belfast.
Yeah.
Hotel. That's where he ripped the bar out, supposedly.
Right. That's right. That's right. But you have the great stories at the Canal Warehouse about the shootings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be the next video. So
I've got the transcript. Joey wants me to get them. Somebody, and he wants to print them. He wants to have them already printed.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That's a great idea.
That is really
right.
Really interesting, because the stenographer, they take down every word the way the guys. There's so many.
That must be fascinating.
Oh, yeah. It's just unbelievable.
Let me interrupt you, Paul. I'm going to end this one.